Today's installment, Sammitchez. Spiritual wreckage. Well, maybe not quite that bad, but it probably will be in a while. I want to continue on a little bit more with the Sabbath meeting that was disrupted by a demonic manifestation I was attending about 16 years ago. Another of the constructs of when that's why I entitled the video The Reversed Construct. The way that these spirits operate in persons and interact with each other is they are under subjection to like a captain. In fact, they specifically said, I'm on assignment from my upper buddies once we began to identify the spirits that were in this person in question when they began to speak to us and manifest. They're not responding to the name of Yeshua HaMashiach of Nazareth. They're not responding to the authority and the power, the authority of the eternal arca reality or the power of the ethereal power realm, which is now coming to bring destruction and death, which will ultimately, they're going to lose their homes, so to speak, some kind of tying together multiple loose ends. These spirits, many of them, because they are the disembodied spirits of the Golden Age men, being transplanted and kept alive and keeping their organizational structure within hosts. In short, what you is going to do is eliminate all the hosts. And so they will all end up dematerializing and dying. The spirits themselves will die, not just their meat robot hosts. But in the meantime, to give the appearance of legitimacy to that religion, I'm talking about entity, churchy entity, they respond to the name of Jesus, which the devil worshippers use all day long, to give the appearance of that religion, the false appearance of legitimacy. So the spirits will cease their operation for a certain season. It'll look like something genuine, but it's not. It's just temporary. I remember some years ago, actually it's about 25 or 30 years ago, there was another guest minister in churchy entity told how he had gone to a Kenneth Hagin faith meeting, and he suffered from so-called registered trademark, patented term maybe, diabetes. I'll say blood sugar instability. He normally had to take medicine. He had to watch what he ate, like all persons that have so-called diabetes do, high blood sugar. When he went to this 3-day meeting, he was told you can eat anything you want, you can eat as much as you want, all the sweets you want, you're not going to have any problems. And he did. He talked, said, it was great. It was wonderful. I didn't have any problems with so-called diabetes. I got to eat anything and everything I wanted. And I thought in the back of my mind, there's something incredibly wrong with that. I knew there was something very wrong with that because I'm not aware of any specific instance righteously in the scriptures where that occurs. That's because it's unrighteous. But this was a guest minister in churchy entity who was, the persons in churchy entity, the chickens, the bird brains in entity, look up to these persons. These are the wise. We're the leadership, devil worshipers. Anyway. So this individual described how for 3 days they could eat anything they wanted, as much as they wanted, and they didn't have any problems with their blood sugar. But then as soon as they left the meeting, then now they had to start taking their medicine again and watching all their calories and all that again, their sugars and their carbohydrates and all that. And I just thought in the back of my mind, I said, there's something wrong and evil about that. So I just file it away as one of the many little things I saw inside churchianity that just seems totally wrong. And so what that was a spirit of affliction that was upon that papist clergy person. That person was afflicted with a spirit, apparently. And then when that person was in the presence of higher spirits, principalities, powers, rulers of darkness, wickedness seated in high places. I got to talk with Daniel. I already have once, at least. What is this authority structure, specifically in the Hex Chi Dechanity? How does it line up in the Hex Chi Dechanity? And so to give the Kenneth Hagin, again, I know where I can segue into this. To give that religion, that group, the appearance of legitimacy, then there will be these temporary appearances of healing or deliverance or whatever, but it's not permanent. If it was legitimate, if it was the real thing from the Shaddai Ahim Elyon, if it was from the Father, Son, the Holy Spirit, the Father of lights, from eternity, it would be permanent. But it wasn't. Now, what did I want to segue into this? It's on the tip of my tongue. I apologize. Oh, Father of lights and the false appearances. Oh, I think I've said this one before, and I'm going to go on into it more to give you actual examples. I come, Yeshua HaMashiach of Nazareth, as a projection of the Yua Elohim reality here in this four-dimensional reality, as the plan of redemption, to restore, to give the opportunity of restoration to the Father, said, I come in my Father's name, and you receive me not. There is another coming in his own, and him you will receive. So first key thing to look for is persons that come to you with a so-called gospel. Whose name are they coming in? Do they come in the name of Yua Al Shaddai, Yua Elohim, Yua El Elyon, maybe the life side of Yua Al Olam, and certainly to the devil worshippers in the name of Yua, the death force of Yua Al Olam, the duality of the Olam reality. Whose name are they coming in? And there's another scripture where the Mashiach was speaking and said, many shall come in my name and deceive many. So now let's look at that pattern. Let's look at the logo of one of the biggest papist Protestants. I'm just about over my geoengineering aerosol affliction. The motto of Kenneth Hagin, where it says, Kenneth Hagin Ministries, Jesus is Lord. Now let's look at this in the scriptures, these two scriptures I just cited. Does he come in the name of the Father? No, he does not. There is another coming in his own name. Does Kenneth Hagin come in his own name? Yes. And then to have the two witnesses, many shall come in my name. Jesus is Lord. Okay, so you can see, and of course then there's plenty of videos on the internet how Kenneth Hagin is a premier papist, pledging many sub-papist clergy to the vicar of Christ, to their fellow homosexual ruler. So you can clearly see the two examples of the logo of Kenneth Hagin, or not Kenneth Hagin, yeah, him too, Kenneth Hagin Ministries, but Kenneth Copeland Ministries, and Jesus is Lord. He comes in his own name, and he comes in the name of Jesus. These are the two primary examples of the scriptures of those who are devil worshippers. How else do you want to say it? I'm not going to candy coat it. The man is a satanic devil worshiper. Supposing gain is godliness. Oh, I'm a billionaire. Supposing gain is godliness. From such, turn away. So there's an exact prime answer, a perfect example of an individual who comes in their own name. Now, there's a lot of individuals, again, part of that plural present tense antichrist system, like choosing an earthly king. I gave you a king in my anger, took him away in my wrath. Persons choosing earthly kings. Rephrased by my educator, George Gordon, voting for a president. So they come in their own name. Donald Trump comes in his own name. I know some individuals that they would allege that they are ecclesiasticals. And I say, well, here are these persons. They're not coming in the name of the Father. They come in their own name. So what does that tell you? They're part of the plural present tense antichrist system that's been around for, well, probably about 6,000 years or more. So if they aren't coming in the names of the L's, El Shaddai, Elohim, El Elyon, and of course those aren't the only ones. If someone said that they came in the name of, if they came to preach the gospel of Poseidon to you, I'd be okay with that. And I've got a chart, many names on it, and we're just adding more all the time as we find the various societies, or the Father Zeus, come to you in the name of Zeus and preach restoration in the name of Thor. That would be Nordic mythology of the names of the Shaddai Ahim reality. The thunderbolt of Zeus, that's the Shaddai reality. Different name by a different culture. Still the same eternal reality. Now, tying together a few other loose ends, as talking about the Hexakiadekiani, or not the Hexakiadekiani, but rather the six realities. I've talked quite a bit about Erebus. And I've only seen the chaos side of Erebus a few times, although I did see the chaos side of Erebus, the Lake of Fire, about 33 years ago. I was taken and shown the chaos side of Erebus. It looked to me like something had reached and had picked me up literally by the scruff of my neck and was carrying me around. It was as if I was over a lunar landscape, over a very, very desolate place. Like the moon, surface of the moon was how my mind was perceiving it. And I saw a big black crater approaching. And it was as if I was 20 miles up in the air, and this crater, as I'm looking down on it, is 50 miles in diameter. I'm 20 miles up over a 50-mile diameter crater. And then my view came down in closer. And I looked, because it looked black. It was a black crater, but when I looked at it closely, in the spirit, I saw that no, it wasn't just black. It had fire in it. But it wasn't fire. It was black arca fire. It was arca reality fire, but it was black flames. Black flames licking up. It was all these flames, this gigantic crater, huge, huge crater. It's how my mind perceived it. But now, having told Daniel this dream I had about 33 years ago or so, he said, well, no, you were shown. I didn't know. I mean, I knew that I had seen the lake of fire. I knew that's what it was. I knew it was the lake of fire. He said, yes, that's what it was. You were on the chaos side of Erebus, and you were looking at the lake of fire. And this is the place that deorganizes things of organization. And they go in there and Hawking radiation comes out. Everything is... At first, when I heard of this, I was resistant. And I don't know... Everything is in balance. Where there is order, there has to be chaos. Where there's heat, there has to be cold. I guess I began to start seeing these principles that persons they, in very basic concepts like forced air heating of a furnace in a house, persons always think about the hot air ducts where the hot air comes out, but nobody happens to think, well, where's the cold air intake? They don't think that, well, if hot air comes in, then where does air go out? There's a displacement, and their simple little minds don't think about, or here's this great big duct of hot air in a room, and then they don't leave the door ajar, or the house is not properly designed with big gaps under the doors or whatever. And so it actually is very inefficient because it ultimately forces the air in older houses or houses that are not airtight, which is not necessarily good anyway. I would prefer either an air-to-air heat exchanger management system, but that's a whole other topic, and I'm getting off topic here. But the simple thing is that where air is coming in, air has to be going out, and they don't think about that. They can't understand the nature of a system that must be in balance, that where something is being put in, something has to be taken out. And individuals will always, they'll be like, oh, where's the hot air duct? I want to keep warm. And sometimes I'm thinking, where's the cold air intake? I want to go inspect that for obstructions and dust. And nobody ever thinks of that. I go look at these cold air intakes in houses, and they're not maintained well at all. And then I'll go downstairs and look at the furnace, and no filters, or I've found blowers with their covers removed. And anyway, but suffice it to say, long story short, that the spiritual, all of everything, all the realities have to be in balance with each other. Where something goes in, something must come out. And even in the realm of information, where information is imparted, then heat, what comes out is heat. And that's also a part of why, with our bodies, why when you get really, really hot, you're not able to think as easily or as well, because your brain literally has to slow down because your brain generates heat. And for the male reproductive system, why it is that male reproductive parts are outside is because of the nature of the impartation of a precursor. It's like a mold. We have a precursor, and then we have the final product. And so there's an impartation of this one imparts information onto the other, and it's that impartation process that creates heat. And so then heat must be dissipated. And so that's why male gonads have to be outside the body, because they have to dissipate heat. And it's based on the laws of physics. Persons don't, I don't know, it's that, as Yua, I'm just going to keep saying this, as Yua El Shaddai has said, the masses have been given the opportunity to receive knowledge and wisdom and understanding, but for whatever reason, mainly their choices, they would rather be pecking bird brains with 5-second attention spans. I'm guilty of watching TikTok as much as anybody else with its 15-second attention span, like a bird brain, where persons just peck because they have such short attention spans. And Yua El Shaddai is not happy with persons like that. Yua El Shaddai wants individuals that engage in very long thinking and meditation. Doesn't want bird brains. And then there's this fruitful aspect. I've told this parable before, but I don't think I've connected the dots. I could go look up the parables, but there are several parables where the Mashiach, the Messiah, Yeshua Mashiach of Nazareth, Yeshua, so-called Jesus, talks about. And the scriptures repeatedly talk about individuals, beings, mankind, as trees. And mankind is referred to as a tree, and the trees must bear fruit. Also described sometimes as abiding in the vine. And much of the earth is not bearing fruit. Not only is it not bearing fruit, but Yua also describes, he says, I have this vineyard, but it doesn't bring forth either good grapes, it either brings forth wild grapes, and the interesting word there that's used to this very day, degenerate. Why have you become a degenerate vine unto me? So they're degenerates. And then on top of that, strange. They've become a strange vine, I think, in some places. Strange. And then with even more specificity is these briars, thorns, and thistles, which don't bear fruit usually. They may bear seed, but they don't bear fruit. And these are plants which Yua doesn't want. Yua wants plants, people, life forms that bear fruit. And so in this context of trees, repeatedly, and I've had a number of dreams now like this, which are borne out by the scriptures, and I found at least three quotes where the scripture talks about people in the context of trees, or at least people, but they are fuel for the fire, that they're going to be burned. I remember once I had a dream where I saw a pile of firewood that was like 40 feet high. I don't know if I've ever seen a pile of firewood that high of any kind or any sort in my life, ever. I've seen very, very large piles of firewood, but in this dream, and it was all dead wood, it was all gray, but it was this pile of firewood. It was literally 30 or 40 feet high, incredibly high. And the context, the interpretation of that dream, because it was a sawmill too. I think there was a sawmill. It might have been a different dream. I had a couple of dreams like this, but there's fire. Oh, and if I remember, I probably told this one a while ago. I'd had this dream where I was standing out in the road in the country, and there was a small house dwelling there, and this truck backed into the driveway, a big 18,000 GVW steak rack truck, dump box steak rack, and there were these two guys, my two friends, Addenda and Michael, the archangels there, they're always with me, and that the cheap plastic lawn furniture that's become so popular in America now, the green and the white lawn chairs, tables, and this truck just bed went up and just started dumping all this firewood, which I've actually seen in reality many times. Big dump truck coming. You've ordered 3 full cords of split firewood. And in this dream, Addenda and Michael were moving the lawn furniture, and they were just arranging how all this firewood would be dumped. And nothing has changed in the realm of the dreams. That even with the most recent dream, with the 4 black steam engines that I saw, which are not the Arca reality. It was interesting how I saw it so far off on the horizon, it looked two-dimensional to me, almost. If I'm not mistaken, it was because I was not in the energy reality. I was in the Olympus Asgard reality, looking out of the Olympus Asgard reality at the energy reality, at the Earth. But my perspective was from that of the power reality, not from the energy reality, which is this universe. So I saw this train. Go this way because it was left to right. So it went this way. Because images on the camera here are reversed. I saw way off in the distance. It was almost like a shadow, but it was very, very clear. So essentially a type of a two-dimensional reality, but that's, as I had said, the way that we look to the power reality. We look like stick people because they have twice the dimensions that we do. So we look very simple to them. And it's the same context again and again and again. The fire and the burning that's coming upon the masses. And now, whereas before, that other dream, the previous dream where I saw Addenda and Michael preparing, it was this firewood. It was the people being brought to this nation to be burned. The interpretation of that dream was people coming to the daughter of Babylon to die here in the overthrow. The wicked of the world are being brought here to be destroyed. That's the interpretation of that dream. Well, now, how many ever years later, approximately 3 years later it is now, maybe more, and I got to just look through my dream log. Now, the people are here. The masses are here. Still more are coming. But now, the power beings are being sent, and I'm pondering if the 4 destroyers that I saw, because I had a dream quite a few years ago, not actually quite a few, but about 5 years ago now, where I saw the 4 destroyers. Well, I saw 2 of them, but 2 of the 4 destroyers in the river Euphrates. These beings that slay a third part of mankind. And maybe I'll tell that dream to Daniel again, and I'm going to ask Daniel, what is the nature of these beings? Yes, they're beings, but I want to know more about them. Just what beings are they? Where are they? Who's there? What authority or power? How are they directed? Where's their primary situs? That type of thing. These are things we can know. They looked like gigantic black Shar-Pei dogs to me. They're kind of wrinkly, but black hair, 1/16 of an inch long all over their whole body. Heads 2 feet in diameter. Great big black dogs they looked like, standing on all 4 legs that were only about 6 inches shorter than I am. They were easily the size of an Alaskan brown bear. Huge, huge beings. That far away from me. Just standing, 2 of them, right next to me, on my right, standing right next to me, facing forward, standing next to me. Now, as time is moving on, and of course I think I told you I had a dream or vision. It's probably a month ago now, 6 weeks ago, where I was being told that there's a necessity of time. Time is necessary for things to take place in a sequence and order, and that is what's happening now. But now with this most recent one of these, and there's many, many, many more, I'm trying to catch up with Daniel, that now I have seen, we're now entering the execution phase now. The execution phase is now beginning. It's not the book of Revelation, the end times. It's not future tense anymore. It's present tense now. Destruction and death are present tense now. You're not going to see anything good from here on out. Destruction and death are just going to keep coming more and more and more and more. And that doesn't include, I was saying, that's something at the direct, these trains this train of these 4 steam locomotives I saw, all 4 of the respective power beings are being directed by their respective L to bring destruction and death on the earth now. And I assume it's going to happen anywhere and everywhere. And the only place that's going to be safe is a spiritual shielded place. The land ark, I kind of alluded to this, and I wanted to make sure I get all my clarity of what I'm saying, and that is, whereas Noah had to have a water ark, we have to have a land ark. The righteous are being prepared mentally, physically, emotionally, spiritually, to prepare to go to, retire to, build, and live in a land ark to be preserved against not a rain of water, but a rain of fire and radiation. is going to be coming out of the sky. So this arc that will have to withstand this Richter 11, 10, 11 global 10, 11, 12, 13 earthquake, however strong that is. It's a physical land arc, arcs, mini arcs, an underground system potentially, interconnectedness. Not just small individual bunkers, but actually a large labyrinth of interconnectedness, I perceive. And Yua hasn't spoken to me specifically about it yet. I'm asking more about various and sundry parts of the plan, and potentially we're still 16, 17 years out, so there's still a lot of time for preparation, etc. Maybe we're not that far out, but from what Daniel is able to tell, Yua has not spoken really anything more to me about Delta Capricorni now lately. Now he's talking to me about the L's, or talking to me about the end times, about life for those that are in life, and then with these power beings, destruction and death for those that are in death. So think in terms of a land arc, an underground structure probably made of steel, roughly constructed. When I say rough, it doesn't have to be rough, but in a rough, somewhat equivalent design of a submarine pressure hull. It doesn't have to withstand exceedingly great depths, but still will probably have to be buried an average depth of 25 to 50 feet underground, a sufficient distance for thermal and radiation protection. And then I've been meditating on this. I've been meditating on the potential designs and energy sources. I'm sure Yua will give us, and I'm not the only individual, I don't think. There should be other, there almost have to be other individuals that these things are being revealed to. I mean, it's really no secret that the Cabal, they're spiritual people, they've been building their version of an underground arc for 40 years now. Under North America, they dig down with their nuclear powered drilling devices, their nuclear drilling train, dig down how many ever miles, 3, 4, 5, 6, 8, 10 miles, however far down they want to go. They bury a nuclear weapon, they plant a nuclear weapon down there, detonate the thing, and it creates, you wonder, well, there was an earthquake. No, that was a nuclear weapon being detonated underground. A clean nuke, and then what it does is it creates this hollow shell, maybe somewhere between 600 and 2,000 feet in diameter inside solid rock, and it fuses all the walls, so it creates this perfect pressure vessel. And they wait an indeterminate amount of time, 2 to 5 years, wait for the radiation to decay. Then they drill back down in there. They've got this perfectly round structure that has the walls all fused from the radioactive heat from the nuclear weapon, and then they build a city in there. They've been doing that for 40 years now. I came on poll, I'm politically incorrect. I came across, now it was in FRAC, I came across a map of about 10, 12, or 15 of these underground cities connected by their underground tunnels, UUN coded at the end of one of the FRAC magazines 30 years ago. Approximately 30 years ago. And the map was dated 1990, 1991. Well, they've had more than 30 years now to add more cities. They call them the DUMBs, Deep Underground Military Bases, and they've been building their version of an underground arc. They know destruction and death is coming upon the earth. They've been building their underground cities. So this was up on poll. I'm politically incorrect. Last year, I made sure I saved a copy of the thread that they said that they've spent approximately 30% of the nation's total GDP for the last 30 or 40 years, so-called off-budget military budget, but literally a third of the nation's GDP has been diverted to building these underground cities and to prepare for them. Not for the masses, for a certain percentage, a number of individuals. I mean, they told you in movies like, well, which one it was, both of the 1998 movies with Bruce Willis was Deep Impact and what was the other one, Armageddon? They had the lottery, and population of America was probably 200 million at that time, and they were going to save 1% of the population. They had this lottery where they started picking people by their social insurance number, and they would get this automated phone call, and they were the 1% that were selected to be saved. So the globalists have told the masses that they only intend to save 1% of the population, and the others will die in the overthrow. Of course, what they're being told now is that no, they're all going to die in the overthrow. Even the ones down there in those deep underground military bases are all going to die, because they're going to be under the lava pit of the crater of the relativistic jet. There will be no atmosphere. There will be nothing to come up to. They're going to get sealed and locked in. It'll be a grave. They're just going to get locked into their underground city when the relativistic jet hits and melts the earth above them into radioactive nuclear soup. And the particles are actually even torn apart. And there will be no atmosphere on that side of the earth either. So they're not going to survive. But suffice it to say that they've been building their ark, their land ark, for 40 years now, and been using a third of the United States GDP for the last 30 years or more to do it. And as of the statistics that were posted on Poll, they have 241 of these cities now, all connected together, that they've built under there. So we won't need to go that deep and to be as extravagant as they are, nor would we want to, but we're still going to need to be somewhere between 20 and 75 feet underground and have provisions to last at least 6 months to a year, minimum. And so you have to place yourself in that mindset that a land ark, you have to start thinking in terms of a land ark under the earth, not far, but I've pondered why it was, because for quite a season now, for about 7.5 years, I lived in a cellar of a house. And I've gotten used to living underground. And I suppose the reason for that is because, well, if you're the righteous and you're being told to prepare against the coming firestorms, where are you going to be? Underground. So you have to be ready for that way of living. Then when it's all over,